This is TWiT.
A lot of rumors about iPhone 17 and so forth. We'll get to those in just a little bit. But I think the story I paid attention to comes from the Sun Valley conference, the Allen & Co. conference in Sun Valley, where the CEO of Liberty Media, Jarek Chang, took meetings with Tim Cook, Eddie Q, as well as Bob Iger from Disney, to ask, how much would you pay? I'm sorry, what's your vision for Formula One in the United States? ESPN has the rights right now to rebroadcast Formula One races in the U.S. They paid $85 million for it. Apparently, according to Puck, which is, Dylan Byers is wired in. He's actually in Sun Valley. Cook and Q, which is, by the way, I like that. I'm going to call them Cook and Q from now on.
Favorite comedy duo, 1982, yes. BBC One, their show. Only six series, but
so funny. Offered Chang $150 million, almost twice what ESPN was paying. The lower end of the 150 to 200 million range that was rumored still puts them in the front row, as it were, pole position to acquire F1. Now, it's possible that Disney will offer more, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah. No, they're not going to offer more. What's it going to come down to is, do they want the money or do they want the exposure? Because they'll get way more exposure on ESPN. And as we all know, if you're not on ESPN, you don't exist in terms of their coverage of sports, which makes it harder visibility-wise. If you disappear from their networks, they don't talk about you either, and that's bad. And that means reach on ABC and and broadcast, as well as on ESPN's new service that they're launching. And this is the same thing as the discussion with MLS, which is like, it's a good deal and the coverage is good, but a lot of people don't have Apple TV Plus, and so they're not going to see it. And that's the what they have to weigh, is take more money and have less visibility. The complication here, which is super weird, is you can already buy a subscription to watch Formula One,
which
over
I
the
do.
top,
Right, F1 TV.
So why would they do another I don't understand why they would take the Apple deal unless they are, for whatever reason, desperate for money, or think that this is potentially like a way to try out the Apple relationship before the international rights come up in 2030 and see if Apple would be a great long-term partner for F1 as a sport. But otherwise, why would you not take less money, other than the fact, do you need that extra $70 million instead of the exposure of being a partner of ESPN and ABC? It's an interesting decision they're going to have to make, because I don't think ESPN has any interest in paying more. They consider that an overpay, and Apple's happy to overpay to get their good friends at F1 on their service.
Should mention that ESPN is Disney, right? That they own ESPN.
ESPN, ABC, Disney, all the same thing.
Well, and I think this is what Byers says. He says it's the MLS cautionary tale. Apple gave Major League Soccer $250 million a year, and then more money for Messi, et cetera, et cetera. But MLS has kind of disappeared, except for if you're on Apple TV, where it's all over the place. So F1 Liberty Media is John Malone. I mean, Liberty Media is savvy.
I would say it's different than MLS, because I don't think MLS was that front row before, so Apple, brought
they're not exactly Premier League or something.
And so it wasn't like they had a lot of exposure. F1 has a lot more exposure. I do think the movie probably had something to do with Apple trying to show them, this is what we can bring to bear. We can get a whole lot of people that hadn't been thinking about
chess.
F1. And I think that's Apple has a lot more dimensionality that they could potentially add. Will they add it? I don't know. I don't know if they'll do it, but they have the potential to add a lot more dimensions to how F1 is covered than a simple cable network.
Well, Byers points out, for instance, the experimental trailer that Apple released on the iPhone had haptics.
Yeah. Also, ESPN, ESPN just runs the Sky, which is basically the F1 English feed, whereas the F1 streaming service has their own announcers. I would imagine that Apple would probably want to actually do this up and get their own broadcast at least announcers, and potentially have a bunch of tech add-ons as well, right? To make it their equivalent of the, push the red button for Sky. Which you can see on ESPN, but there's no red button to push, which apparently F1 fans don't like. So there's a lot that they could do, and that's what I think it's going to come down to.
That's why I don't
it's as
watch
much
it on ESPN.
Having Apple as a partner than it is about anything else, because Apple doesn't really want U.S. rights to anything. If they want global rights, MLS is a global rights deal. Apple is thinking globally. So why would you get the U.S. rights? Well, to try it out. Yeah. Because there will be a time when Apple could theoretically buy global F1 rights. And does F1 want to do that? Well, this would be a way for Apple to sort of prove its mettle.
Yeah, and I think that also there isn't, like when you're making these deals, looking at the fact that there is an executive, Eddie Q, who is super excited about the product.
He's on Ferrari's board.
I think that makes also a difference in how you look at it, because you're like, it's not just another business deal. It's somebody who really wants to, someone who has the ability to make decisions that are available to really push things forward. And again, Apple has a lot of potential for lots of different kinds of promotions across the products. They've not done as much with MLS as I thought they would, but they could do a lot more.
Yeah, it's interesting because ESPN, even though they're offering significantly less, is still at the table, which shows you that Malone and Chang are thinking, do we really want all this money from Apple? What is Apple going to offer us?
The problem is when you look at cable, now, admittedly, except for sports, but when you look at the rest of the cable network, but when you look at the rest of the cable ecosystem, most of that is, as a macro level, burning up in the atmosphere. So you're kind of like, that's not the, cable TV. Now, ESPN may last longer. The sports brands tend to last a little longer in this environment, but for the most part, everyone's trying to divest from cable TV. So
but not Disney, because they're launching ESPN as a streaming service as well,
right.
And
they're
it's
finally doing that. Yeah,
it's probably a different kind of scenario. I'm sure F1 would love to be talking to other streamers as well, but they're not interested in this.
Netflix too much money. Would be a natural. Netflix has the money, and they created Drive to Survive, which I think single-handedly made F1 popular in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think Netflix probably doesn't think that the U.S. only rights are worth it for them, which is why I come back to, why is Apple talking to them other than their F1 film relationship? And it's got to be sort of like, if they do this deal, I just feel like it's let's do this for the next 5 years and see what happens, and are we a long-term partner for them or not, more than anything else.
Because even with the bulk of the size of this deal, the U.S. market is still a relatively small market for F1. It's a market they want to grow.
The time of the races, in many cases, is the middle of the night. It's not a good live sport for the U.S.
Yeah, so it's not. There's as Jason pointed out, there's less at stake. This is a perfect proving ground for Apple, as opposed to like giving them the golden goose.
Yeah. Yeah, Apple must be saying to them something more long term than just.
They start designing cameras for them. They design cameras for the movie. So when they start going, hey, we have a lot of camera technology. It's not just you figuring out how to put cool cameras into imagine what we could do with designing and building new kinds of ways of covering the sport. That potentially could come with it, and for Apple that'd be good on many levels.
Liberty owns F1 TV, and they own the streaming service, which I think if you're a hardcore F1 fan, you probably pay. It's not expensive. Pay it. I do every year, because it gives you not only a choice between Crofty promoting Sky with a red button, and their own announcers who are far better, but you also get all the camera angles. You get all the radio. Every driver camera, you get a whole lot more. In fact, we've talked about this before. It would be an amazing Vision Pro app.
Yeah, remember that's some independent people just basically built it on their own,
right? And
it's mysteriously disappeared, which either means that they got lawyered up, they got lawyered at, or someone said, "Hi, come work for us, F1, and make this into a real thing because we like the cut of your jib."
I think the fact that Apple can basically offer infinite amount of money for live sports in the long run must scare ESPN just a little bit.
And in addition, they're not they don't it's not that they don't care about ratings, but ratings are down on the list. They will buy sports, they will buy shows for prestige and for subscriptions. They don't necessarily, you don't have to deliver an audience year after year after year.
Yeah.